Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the different kinds of ink blending brushes that I have in my stash. Over the years, I've collected different ones, different sizes, different shapes, and I thought I'd share those with you. Those of you that have watched videos on my channel before know that ink blending is my jam. So it should be no surprise that I have quite the stash of ink blending brushes. And I am continually adding to my brush collection because as my crafting grows and my skills grow and I'm honing in on my techniques and things, my needs change and improve, as well as there are new kinds of brushes that come out on the market that can help me fulfill those needs. But before we get into the brushes, I do want to point out this tray of ink blending tools that I have. These are the Tim Holtz ink blending tools, and those tools, some of those tools I've had since I started crafting. But I use these Tim Holtz tools specifically for ink blending with distress oxides or any type of hybrid inks. For each set of brushes that I'm going to be sharing, I'm also going to be doing a demonstration. And to keep the demonstration fair and equal, I'm going to be using the same type of paper, which is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White and 80-pound weight. And I'm also going to be using Distress ink and the color Prize Ribbon. Let's get started. So the very first set of ink blending brushes that I bought actually came from Amazon. They were in a 5-pack of colors because I'm the type of person that when something comes out new on the market, I'm not necessarily just automatically running to get it. I have to kind of figure out if this is something that I actually need. So before I jumped into any of the manufacturer's blending brushes, because they can be expensive, I decided to get a pack from Amazon and kind of test them out and see how they work. And to be honest with you, I still use these brushes because I do feel like they are great price point and they work pretty well. As always, I'm going to have a coordinating blog post to go along with this video, and I'll have all the products that I can link listed and linked on that blog post. So that's where you'll be able to find these brushes. So you can see here that I'm getting a very good amount of ink laid down very easily with these brushes from Amazon. I'm having to work a little bit to make sure that my blend is nice and smooth, but all in all, again, these are some really great brushes for the price point. I think they were like $15, maybe even less than that. I have to see. But anyway, I'll have them linked on my website. So there's a close-up of the of how that blend came together, and I'm pleased with that. Let's move on to the next type of blending brush. So once I had those Amazon brushes for a while, the next kind of brush that came out in a large set were the Tailored Expressions brushes, at least that I'm aware of. And I liked these brushes because, again, they were a larger set, so I was able to double my blending brush set by going from 5 to 10. And I also like that they had colors, or brushes, should I say, for colors other than just the typical rainbow color. So you have a teal in there, you have a pink in there, you have a brown and a gray. So I really liked that was the case. These also have white bristles, so you get to see the true color of the inks that you're using. And I really like the bright colors of the handles. I like that the fact that the handles are colored, so then I can easily be able to figure out which brush I'm going to need to grab for when I'm working with my inks. If you follow me for any amount of time, then you know that distress inks, regular distress inks, are also my favorite inks to work with. I've been stamping and crafting for over 20 years now, and distress inks along with Stampin' Up! Inks were my very first inks that I started with. So you can see here, I'm using this Tailored Expressions brush to lay down that same Prize Ribbon ink, and you can see that I'm getting a very light covering of the ink to begin with. So this might be helpful if you are, just wanting to lay down a light light covering of ink, then you can also build up from there. So the first set of brushes, the ink went on pretty heavy to begin with, and this set, the ink goes on a little bit lighter. At least it does for me. I have to tell you too that I am pretty heavy-handed. Always have been in my life. So I use a pretty heavy hand when I am ink blending. And now you can see, but even with that heavy hand, you can see that the ink did go on kind of light, and now it's starting to build up. So now that we've gotten our color kind of built up and deepened, let's take a look at this demonstration panel. You can see the where it goes from very light to much darker towards the edge of the paper. These are a great set of brushes to have in your collection. So let's talk about the Altenew ink blending tool. This is an ink blending tool that is very different from typical brushes that we would see on the market. This brush has an ergonomic design, so it has a knob at the top that you grab and hold very differently than you do or would a brush. These tools are sold individually, so they are at a higher price point. I will admit that. However, they are fantastic. I really, really like these, the Altenew blending brush. This is the only one that I have, and because of that, I have dedicated it to my blue inks. I do that because I could be blending a sky, I could be blending an ocean scene, or anything else that I want that is blue, want to be blue, and I can use this blending tool with that. One of the things that I love most about this blending tool is that has a very wide blending surface. So there are lots and lots of bristles in this tool, which makes the ink go down a whole lot smoother and a whole lot faster. Because you can see there, I'm covering a lot of ground on this demonstration panel really quickly and easily with this Altenew ink blending tool. And look at that the dark blue blend that I'm getting down at the edge of that paper. I'm telling you, these brushes are fantastic. Again, they are at a higher price point, but I suggest grabbing one, trying it out, and dedicating it to a color that you use the most. So the next set of brushes that I have are the Rabbit Hole Designs blending brushes. These, just like the Altenew brushes, are sold individually, so I just have two of these. And I purchased these because I started to notice that certain projects that I was working on, I needed a smaller brush to get into some of the details or to add some detail or shading into a specific area on whatever I was creating. Because at this point, up until this point, all I had was still the big, typical big head blending brushes. So these were my first couple of purchases, and they're also a little bit different and unique in that they have the little string on the end, and they kind of have a little bit of can be hung in your craft room if that's how you want to use them. I'm showing you here on the demonstration panel that they can be used to cover, a large area of ink if that's what you need. But I mostly use them to add detail or to add a little bit of shading in a specific area. So here's an idea of what this brush was to look like if you were just to draw or use it to make a straight line. You can see just how wide that line would be. So that'll give you an idea of how wide your detail would be if you were to use this to add detail to an element. I'm also making a little circle here so you can see if you were to just use it in a little small circular motion, what size that circle would be. If you like to create with a lot of circles or add some detail to your creations, then the Rabbit Hole Design brushes would probably be great for you. as my crafting techniques and styles continued to grow, it became more and more important for me to have brushes that were small and allowed me to get into small nooks and crannies, or to add shading and detail to just the ends of pieces that I may have die cut. So that's where these detail flat brushes from Simon Says Stamp came into play. I do like the fact that there are 10 brushes in this set. Also like that the handles are colored, and so they can you can easily find out or pick the brush that you want to use. I do wish that the colors were a little bit different, because the red is not really red. The orange is not really orange, it's more peachy color. So I do wish that the colors were a little bit more true to the actual color that they were. But as far as the brushes go and the bristles and the detail they provide, they are great. So you can see me here on the demonstration panel, kind of adding some of this prize ribbon to the bottom of my panel. And you can see, depending on how hard you press, again, I'm pretty heavy-handed. So you can see I can get a deep coverage of color easily with these brushes. I don't have to work too hard, which I love, because when you're crafting and creating, sometimes you're working for several hours, and you can, your wrist can get tired. So I like that I'm able to get the ink down pretty easily. But I'm also going to be able to get a small line of ink, which then can translate into detail. So let's take a look at me creating a line here with this brush. So you can just see how narrow that brush can be if you decide to use it that way. That's also one of the things that I like about the brushes, is that you have the ability to use them in different ways. So there's flexibility in how you use your brushes. So let's take a closer look at this demonstration panel. And you can see there, it's a really nice set to have in your stash. So my most recent purchase that I have for the video are these Waffle Flower shader blending brushes in the size 0. So these are the smallest brushes that I own. These are the tips are very small, and they are meant to add just a little bit of shape and shading to your elements that you use them on. I have used them a couple of times on some projects, and I'm still learning how to use them. I don't know that I'm getting the results that I'm looking for with these brushes just yet, and it could very well be user error, but it also, just could be that the brush is just smaller than I think it is, and then it's not going to necessarily give me the results that I'm looking for. So you can see there just how thin this line is. And so I don't think these brushes are meant to color in images, hence the name shader. They're supposed to come in and just add some shade or some highlight to a specific area. So again, I'm still learning how to use these brushes. You can see there the circle that's being created with these brushes is so tiny and small. I can see where this would be beneficial in like the center of flowers, or the edging of maybe butterflies or the wings of birds or something like that. But again, I'm still learning how to use these. You can see from my set there that I haven't used them a whole lot, because I still have 6 or 7 brushes that haven't even been inked up yet. So again, jury's still out on these particular brushes to figure out if they're going to be, very beneficial to my creating and to have in my stash. So there's a close-up of the demonstration panel where you can see the thin line that's created, as well as any circles if you were to use them to create circles or to deepen different parts of a flower. So one thing that I like to talk about or to compare is the sizes of the brush heads, because the sizes of the brush heads matter and depending on what you're doing. So here are two typical size brushes. So there's the large brush from from Tailored Expressions, and then there's the detail brush from Simon Says Stamps. So you can see both on the front and the back just how big or how small these brush heads are. I also have a couple of other brushes in my stash that are just like random brushes that I have from a couple of different crafting companies. I have a couple of brushes from Nuvo, and I purchased these because I use these with my white inks, like my Hero Arts Unicorn White ink. The Unicorn White ink is a pigment ink, so you definitely want to have a separate set of brushes dedicated to that ink. I love the effect of using that ink through a stencil with that brush. As well as I have one Hero Arts blending brush that came in one of my monthly hero kits. So now let's kind of take a closer look at the comparison of all of these different brushes and the brush head sizes. So I have 4 brushes out there. I'm going to bring in the Rabbit Hole Designs brush, as well as the Waffle Flower brush. And you can see that there is a wide range of brush and brush heads sizes that are out there on the market. This is just a sampling too, because there are other brushes that I don't own. The Waffle Flower has a slanted shaded brush that I think I'm going to add to my collection as well. So now let's compare all 6 test cards or demonstration cards all together. This is a great way for you to kind of get an idea of what kind of results you can get from the different brushes. So depending on what you want to do, you need to grab, a certain type of brush or a certain kind of brush. And again, I use the same card stock. I use the same ink color, but you can see here we got a wide range of variation depending on the brush that we used. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Again, everything will be listed and linked on my blog post that coordinates with this video over on thedeltacrafter.com. If you have some blending brushes, leave me your favorite type of blending brush down in the comments below. And if you have some that I don't have, leave me a recommendation for those blending brushes. I'd love to hear what you all use and what you have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button to join the Delta Crafter family. To stay in the loop on all the things that I create, make sure you check me out on Instagram and Facebook. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and until next time, enjoy!